Hello and welcome to Making Events Matter. I'm Dom Honey from Event Results and I'm here with Steve Bather, head honcho and old friend and collaborator from the Realise Group. We've spent our careers turning events from just another meeting to making them matter. Today, we're talking about how to build a community to maintain the engagement and momentum generated by an event. Hello, Steve. How are you?
Hello, Dom. All good. Glad to hear that. That was quite a long intro, and so
I
I guess,
specialise in them.
yeah, I guess the first question is you're talking about building and engaging communities. What do you mean by that? Where do they fit with events and event management and event design?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And for the longest time, certainly over my career, clients have asked me what happens post-event when people go back to their day jobs. I've had a great experience at the event. There's been lots of momentum building, lots of engaged conversations, lots of networking, all happening at the event, often typically face to face, but not always. And then there's sort of tumbleweed afterwards. Maybe a report goes out that probably nobody reads, and that's kind of it until a year later when people meet up again, or a couple of years later. And for the first time over the last few years, we now have an approach, a proven approach, that enables attendees to become members of a community supported by digital tools where they can continue to network, continue to collaborate, continue to share, but equally learn and continue to maintain the momentum built by the event. So we launch the event app for the event, and then we transition into a community post-event using the same platform, and the attendees become members of that community. And in some cases, we expand the community out to bring new members in, etc., etc. Just depends on the client and what their objectives are. So we have done this successfully many times now, and it really makes a huge difference to the legacy of the event, the ROI from the event, and the interconnectedness that people feel about the event. So it's kind of the digital hub, the digital brain of what was agreed, what happened at the event, and people can go back to it time after time as part of the community.
So we should perhaps get into some of the detail, but just generally what we've talked about in previous episodes of this podcast is that we really focus on that kind of ongoing legacy. And it's something that people talk about, but they very rarely know how to actually extract the value in an ongoing situation. So we'll come back to a couple of examples as well about how we've helped communities kind of prepare and then during the event sort of almost begin to engage through the platform as well as in person or hybrid, and then ongoing how we then transition the platform. But what we're really doing is trying to build in that value, that return on investment, that legacy of the event for groups and communities to continue working so that the community becomes effectively the one single point of contact for all things that were launched or discussed or decided at the conference. So we ran a conference recently in Singapore for illegal wildlife trade. And it brought together people from governments, both in Asia and in Europe, from Interpol. We had a number of application manufacturers there who were producing digital tools and border control tools that could trace and detect where illegal wildlife items and trade was coming together. And so many of those connections that hadn't existed before the event, a 3-day event in Singapore, then became solid collaboration and pieces of work and projects that people would then and are continuing to work with. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that transition from in the event to post-event and what that community looks like from the participants' perspective.
Yeah, so what we tend to do is we understand in the planning and often during the event exactly what sort of content is going to be generated by the conference. So we know that there's going to be video, audio, based on the sessions that we're recording. We know there are going to be a number of reports, some that we generate from the platforms that we deploy, for example, XLeap as well as Swapcard. And we know that there may be a number of AI generated pieces of content. That could be session transcripts or session summaries. It could be overall event summaries. And that content can then start to be published post-event. Once the platform that we launched at the event turns into a community, which we handle, we often launch a news feed so that attendees who are now members can publish updates about their work or who they're collaborating with, or news that they think would be relevant to the particular community of practice members that were at the event. And over time, we start to publish this content, giving us new reasons to contact the membership. So that maintains understanding, shares knowledge, and often drives people back to the community. But the community continues to offer, along with the newsfeed, it continues to offer the networking capabilities. There are discussion forums if they're appropriate. So this is a really good way to enable specific topic-based or theme-based discussions to happen on the platform. And there's a number of other content generation strategies that we take depending on how long we're supporting the community for. And we tend to do a minimum of 6 months, like we're doing with the IWT conference, but another conference that we supported at its inception back in South Africa was 3 years ago, and that community continues to run to this day. So there's real value, maintaining of momentum, constant content sharing, which obviously we handle to do. And in the past, we've done things like interviews with particular people from the community to promote them and their work to the community. We've also proposed podcasts, and that could be human podcasts, or indeed we've also explored AI generated podcasts based on content from the event, which is a really good way to share information easily digestible information based on the conference content, for example. So we find video is a really good medium for maintaining engagement and generates a lot of interest from community members. But there's other formats as well, including written reports, etc.
So you made some really good points there, I think, about the maintaining the momentum by creating fresh and new content and basing that new content on the existing content that may have been generated during the event, or new insights, new project updates, and so on. I think it's also worth underlining a couple of things you also said. One is that that community can expand beyond those who were originally invited to the in-person or hybrid event. So we've had examples of scholarship students, for example, becoming a subgroup on a community. We've had examples of early career researchers using the data that's come out of the event to enhance their studies. We've had PhD students who have joined, and of course people who weren't able to be at the event can not only review and see the content, but they can interrogate it using the AI tools to find out exactly what they need to know according to their area of special interest or what they're currently researching. And then you've also talked a number of times about the ROI and the value and so on. How do we know? What are the mechanisms and the reporting functions that you get from the platform that prove the number of connections and the return on that investment?
Yeah, it's I think it's really important that we know what's working and what isn't. And so the platform gives us lots of data about who has visited what areas, and indeed how much view time there have been of videos, for example. At the activity on the platform is key. So obviously during the event, activity on the platform is high because people need to see the agenda and they want to connect with people, etc., and review shared information about sessions, for example. But post-event, that's a different approach and there's a different level, and we typically see 40 to 60+% of the attendees who are now members being active on the platform, and we can measure that. We can see in aggregate what they're doing, and we can know what content's working, what's of most interest to the membership. We can obviously measure the number of posts that are made on the platform and the interactions that are happening, the sort of networking levels, etc. So we report on that typically quarterly, and then do a full year sort of annual impact report to show how the community has been performing. And we've got some really good stats actually from all the communities we've supported, but in particular one or two which have where really I have been surprised by the level of activity and engagement with the community platform long after the event has taken place. And actually thinking about that as well, the part of our strategy is, as you know, to encourage meetups as well, and that can happen on the platform. So if you have an event every year or every 2 years, it's a really good way, maybe every 6 months or every year, depending on when you meet in person or hybrid, to use the platform as a way to connect with the membership via a short, maybe half-day session to draw people in, generate new content, share learnings and understanding, and that's another really good way to keep engagement and drive engagement with the membership.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like some effort at least, and you're keeping in contact and you're refreshing the content and you're supporting and advising. We have ongoing meetings with the client to kind of suggest different things, perhaps putting a podcast together. But it's relatively inexpensive in terms of the value return from that community. What kind of loading would it be to kind of manage the platform from the content perspective, and what are the implications of the ongoing costs in terms of the licensing and the platform costs?
So there's a license fee for the first year, which is paid for the event anyway. So if someone has a 3-day event, the license fee for the platform is covered by that, and the setup costs, etc., are all part and parcel of our approach to planning and managing the event. And then post-event, the platform's paid for the first year, as I mentioned. And then in terms of my time or our time, then it comes down to the level of content generation required to deliver the objectives of the client for the community. But it tends to be a small amount of time per month, so something like an hour to 4 hours per month tends to be the norm.
Wow.
For either 6 or 12 months.
Yeah. And we're not talking about a big load for the client either.
No.
And a fairly regular meeting, perhaps once a month for an hour or so, just to share some ideas and ensure that they're continuing to, provide and promote the content. Again, really thinking about what the ongoing implications and the value that continues from the community, and then at subsequent points, I think you mentioned every 6 months you either promote it again and you continue it for 6 months, or you look at how to close it down. What happens to all the content when you close the community down?
So there's a conversation that happens with the client. They can request any or none of the content that's on the platform, the video, the document assets. Typically, the membership list, for example, that can all be provided at the time the platform's closed. So, and then we obviously alert and notify the membership over a period of maybe 4 weeks, just to let them know that the platform is closing. So that's a fairly standard procedure, and works pretty well.
So, really excellent way of continuing with that collaboration, building on the momentum that's created by the event. We design and build that element, that ongoing legacy element, as part of the design for the whole event. So we know what we're trying to achieve by that. We know the kind of things that clients will be talking about, and how those groups break into subgroups and perhaps project teams, or managing actions and outcomes. And we've had some really great stories about people connecting at a conference and then beginning to do project work, particularly I think IWT, the illegal wildlife trade. We've heard of applications by new border forces where they have brought in some of the technologies and tools that they first became aware of at the conference, actually into their world to help reduce the amount of illegal wildlife trade. Sounds great, Don.
Yeah, no, I think it has transformed what we've been able to say to customers considering running an event, be that a day, 2, 3 days, a week. It doesn't matter how long, but you invest so much time, effort, and money in providing a great experience to attendees during the event. And with our support, with the digital platform support, a lot of content goes into that, a lot of effort goes into that in advance and during the event. It seems crazy not to leverage that in the post-event phase. And so to build out a community where attendees transition to members of a community that's been launched during the event really changes the dynamic post-event and ensures that the attendees who are now members become engaged enthusiasts, and they have a place that they can return to at any time to collaborate, to be reminded of what happened at the event, or to connect. And we've seen some great success as a result of that.
Brilliant. And of course, that has always been our shared frustration about the as you said at the beginning of this episode, how quickly the effect from a let's face it, expensive in-person event drops off very quickly afterwards. And now we have the technology and the expertise to actually continue with that and build that community so that it remains of value and continues to build value. And if anybody's in any doubt, you can look this up as well. But of course, every platform we use is incredibly secure. Everything's encrypted. We are in control about who has access to the content, and it's all incredibly secure on the cloud. So
and we'll put the links.
Standard.
We'll put the links to the platforms in the episode description, so you can look for yourselves. But obviously, anyone's very free to contact us directly, and we'll talk you through our approach and how it could apply to your events. Brilliant. Thanks, Steve. That was great.
Thank you.
Good to chat.
Thanks, Tom.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.